Breathwork is so powerful and I'm hooked. I've just done my 4th session, but this session was different. It was live. It was in a group with 25 people. This was a 2-hour experience of doing the circular breathing to tap into your unconscious state. And so first, as we began, I connected with Isis energy again. And a funny story, I had been down at the park with just earlier in the day to do some grounding. We were just sitting under a tree and we were talking about Avatar, the airbender, and about their superpowers. And my kids asked me, what would you want your superpower to be? And I said, I would love to fly. And so it's so funny, when I connected with Isis, she showed me her wings and she said, you can fly. So many other body experiences too. I kept itching in my ear. It felt like there was a tag or something in my ear, and I could almost. But as I went more and more into the meditation, then the healing started. Then I started. What was different about the in-person event is there was 4 facilitators who were going around the room and they would do hands-on healing. So when I'm going through this process of purging and I couldn't stop, I didn't know she was there, and I was startled when I felt her touch me. Like, oh God, right, And she put her hands on me and it calmed me down. But the place she put her hands, because I was lying on my side, and she put her hand on a spot on my shoulder, the exact spot where I had a melanoma. I had a melanoma removed, and it's quite a large scar. And that actually gave me more clarity about the melanoma too, where that energy came from in my body, because linked to the female lineage in my ancestry. Because what I could see when she put her hand on me was the electrical current, and it was like a spiral running from mother to mother all the way down the ancestral line of the pattern that had continued through all the bloodline until Susanna. And I have done my family history because I come from a family in Western Australia that were the first settlers, so I was really interested in knowing. And I love that show, Who Do You Think You Are? Because I can see the patterns. I can see them passed down from generation to generation. And that's what's happened. Susanna was an immigrant from England who arrived on the Callista in 1829 into Perth, Western Australia. And her mother died 2 years later, so she had to get married at 17. Now, what's interesting about this is when I was helping Susanna cross over, because that's where the energy all stuck. If you can imagine like a tree, it went through all the roots and the energy stopped with her. She was stuck on the Rainbow Bridge. She was stuck there with a ball and chain around her ankle. She couldn't move on because there was something connected to her. So I was able to bring in her mother, but even her mother couldn't get her to come. So I called in Archangel Michael, and he cut the ball and chain off with his sword of light, and he protected her as she went with her mother. But there was an energy there, and I think that was her husband. Her husband was 18 years older than her, and I've got the newspaper clipping from 1833 in my folder that appeared in the Fremantle paper of how her husband attempted to shoot her father. He went on trial for attacking the father with a pistol because the father had helped her leave that marriage. So that gives you an indication of his character. Doesn't end well for Susanna. In 1892, I have the newspaper clipping of how she was imprisoned for vagrancy, and that's where she died. I'm certain that energy that held Susanna back from crossing over was her husband. He didn't cross over to the light. He went back down. In fact, I had to white bomb and bring in the Golden Christ consciousness light to get rid of him. But in the end, I saw us, all the women in the line, standing in a circle, and it was a spiral circle like this, and all holding hands with the energy released. And that's the power of breath work.